Ever imagine being Queen of England,
Hmm.
only to be completely overshadowed by all five of Henry VIII's other wives?
Yeah,
That's Jane Seymour in a nutshell,
it really
a
is.
historical enigma.
Right.
She played a pivotal role in the Tudor dynasty, but she remains shrouded in mystery.
Definitely.
Today, we are diving deep into the life of Jane Seymour, Henry VIII's third wife.
Oh, exciting.
We've got historical accounts, expert biographies, and even some surviving letters.
Wow.
So get ready for some royal intrigue.
Sounds fun.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
What is?
How she's often overshadowed by the more dramatic figures in Henry's life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But that makes her all the more intriguing to me.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Where does Jane fit into this family tree?
Well, even her birth date is a bit of a mystery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, most likely it was around 1508,
Okay,
but the exact date remains elusive.
that's strange.
It is?
You'd think for a Queen of England,
Yeah, you really would.
we'd know that.
You'd think so.
What do we know about her family?
So we do know she came from a respectable family,
Okay.
not exceptionally wealthy or connected, like some of Henry's other wives.
Right.
Her father, Sir John Seymour,
Mm-hmm.
was a knight, served in Parliament,
Okay.
typical gentry.
How did she end up on Henry's radar then?
Well,
Was it love at first sight
ooh.
or something more calculated?
There's speculation that she served in Catherine of Aragon's household
Okay.
for a time,
Mm-hmm.
which would explain her later close relationship with Princess Mary.
Ah, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But was that what got her in front of Henry?
Not really.
Why?
The real turning point was her time in Anne Boleyn's court.
Oh, okay.
This is where the story takes a dramatic turn.
Oh, I love a good Tudor drama.
Me too.
So Henry takes notice of Jane while he's still married to Anne Boleyn.
He does, yeah.
That's bold, even for him.
Indeed. And we have this intriguing account from Eustace Chapuis,
Okay.
who was the imperial ambassador at the time.
Mm.
He was a keen observer of the Tudor court,
Okay.
and he reports that Henry sent Jane a letter and a purse of gold,
Okay.
which she refused.
She refused the king.
Yeah.
What did she say?
Well, Chapuis claims that she said she would only accept a gift from the king on her wedding day.
Wow.
I know.
She was playing hard to get.
Oh, for sure.
She knew what she was doing.
She knew exactly what she was doing.
So what was Henry's reaction to that?
Surprisingly, no.
Okay.
He seems to have been smitten by her purity,
Wow.
and he started arranging chaperoned meetings with Jane
Oh,
to
right.
prove his honorable intentions.
So he was serious about her.
Yeah, it seems so. And interestingly,
Yeah.
these meetings were facilitated by Thomas Cromwell and Jane's brother Edward.
Oh, so there's some political maneuvering happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which raises the question, did Jane and her family play a role in Anne Boleyn's downfall?
Ooh, that is a good question.
It is. Historians still debate this.
I mean, the timeline is pretty suspicious, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
He falls for Jane while he's still married to Anne, and just a few weeks later, Anne is accused of treason and executed.
And the very next day, Henry and Jane are betrothed.
My goodness, what a whirlwind.
I know.
From lady-in-waiting to Queen of England.
Yep, in a matter of months.
That must have been terrifying for Jane, knowing Henry's track record.
Absolutely, a risky move.
Yeah.
Remember, Henry had already discarded 2 wives at this point.
Yeah.
There was no guarantee he wouldn't do the same to her.
So what kind of queen did she become?
Yeah.
Was she just a quiet, obedient wife?
Hmm.
Or did she wield any real influence?
That's a great question.
Did she just keep her head down?
Yeah.
Or did she try to shape Henry's policies?
Hmm.
Maybe even leave her mark on history?
Well, her reign was relatively short.
Okay.
Only 18 months.
Oh, wow.
But she certainly wasn't a wallflower.
Uh-huh.
She took charge of the Queen's lands,
Okay.
became a significant landowner in her own right,
Wow.
and she ran a strict household. There's a story, maybe it's apocryphal, but it's about her banning the fashionable French hoods in her court.
Really? Those elaborate, almost architectural headpieces.
Yep, those are the ones.
Why would she do that?
Some historians believe it was a way of distinguishing her court from Anne Boleyn's,
Oh, okay.
which was known for its French-inspired fashions and perceived extravagance.
So signaling her own piety
Right.
and distancing herself from the scandal that surrounded Anne.
Exactly.
It shows a certain amount of political savvy, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
A desire to control her own image
Yeah,
and set the tone for her reign.
absolutely.
And that's not all, is it?
That's not all, no.
There are other hints that Jane might have been more politically astute
Yes.
than history gives her credit for.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, now this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Tell me more.
Well, for one, she reportedly spoke out against Henry regarding the Pilgrimage of Grace rebellion.
The uprising in the north,
Yeah.
protesting the dissolution of the monasteries.
Yes, that's right. Sources suggest she argued passionately
Wow.
for Henry to show mercy to the rebels,
Oh, good.
which wasn't exactly typical behavior for a Tudor queen.
No, not at all.
Oh,
She wasn't just a pretty face.
no.
She had opinions, and she wasn't afraid to voice them,
Exactly.
even to the king himself.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think motivated her to intervene like that?
It's impossible to know for sure,
Yeah.
but it might have been a combination of factors.
Mm.
Her own deep religious convictions,
Mm-hmm.
a desire to avoid further bloodshed,
Yeah.
possibly even a shrewd understanding of the political landscape.
This is really challenging the image I had of Jane Seymour.
I bet.
She's starting to seem like a woman of principle,
Yeah.
not just a pawn in Henry's game.
I think that's a fair assessment.
It makes you wonder, what else might she have achieved if she'd lived longer?
It really does, but of course her
Yeah.
life was cut short under
Yeah.
tragic circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to,
A pivotal moment
yes,
in Tudor history.
a pivotal moment.
The birth of Prince Edward,
Yes,
a long-awaited male heir.
the long-awaited male heir.
This is where Jane's story becomes both triumphant and heartbreaking.
Exactly.
But before we dive into that,
Yeah.
let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far.
Okay.
Jane Seymour, the often overlooked queen,
Mm-hmm.
she's starting to emerge as a much more complex and intriguing figure
Yeah.
than I ever imagined.
It just goes to show there's always more to uncover,
Yeah.
even about the most seemingly familiar historical figures.
And we'll be right back to continue our deep dive
Sounds good.
into the life of Jane Seymour. Don't go away.
Can't wait.
So we left off talking about Jane's growing influence
Yes.
and a hint of the political savvy she may have had.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, what really cemented her place in history
Yeah.
was the birth of her son, Edward.
Yes, absolutely. That was a pivotal moment for both Jane and the Tudor dynasty.
After 2 failed marriages
Right.
and countless anxieties
Yeah.
about securing the succession.
Henry finally had his legitimate male heir.
He did.
Can you imagine the celebrations?
Oh, yeah.
The relief that must have swept through the kingdom?
I'm sure it was a time of national rejoicing.
Yeah.
Cannons firing,
Yeah.
bonfires blazing,
Wow.
church bells pealing across the land.
And for Jane to fulfill this crucial role,
Yes.
to give the king what he desired most,
Mhm.
it must have felt like the pinnacle of her life.
It's easy to romanticize that image, isn't it?
Yeah.
The queen who provided the long-awaited heir,
Mhm.
securing the future of the Tudor dynasty.
Right.
But we also have to remember the reality of childbirth in the Tudor era.
Yes.
It was a perilous,
Yeah.
often life-threatening.
There was no modern medicine,
Right.
no understanding of hygiene as we know it today.
Yeah, it makes you realize just how vulnerable even a queen could be.
Absolutely. And tragically for Jane, that vulnerability became all too real
Yeah.
just 12 days after giving birth to Edward.
Wow.
She succumbed to what was most likely puerperal fever,
Also known as childbed fever.
a devastating turn of events.
Yeah, all that joy and celebration turning to mourning in an instant.
It's a stark reminder
Yeah.
that life in the Tudor era, even for those at the pinnacle of power, could be incredibly fragile.
It makes you wonder what might have been had Jane lived.
It really does.
Would she have continued to wield influence over Henry?
Mm-hmm.
How would she have shaped Edward's upbringing?
Yeah, we see hints of her strength, her political awareness.
Would she have become a powerful queen in her own right,
Right.
guiding her son,
Yeah.
and maybe even tempering some of Henry's more tyrannical impulses?
It's fascinating to speculate,
It is.
but even in death,
Yeah.
Jane's impact was profound.
Okay.
She became this symbol of sacrifice.
Right.
The queen who gave her life for her king and for the future of England.
And her image.
Yes.
Her legacy was carefully cultivated, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Henry made sure of that.
Okay.
He never remarried after Jane's death,
Wow.
and he continued to hold her in high regard.
Mm-hmm.
Even referring to her as his true wife.
Okay.
Her tomb became a site of pilgrimage,
Really?
and her image was used to bolster the legitimacy of the Tudor dynasty.
Especially during Edward's reign.
Yes, and that's where her portraiture comes in, right?
Right. We see her image everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
From the famous Holbein portrait
Yes.
to the grand murals at Whitehall Palace.
Exactly. And these images tell us a lot about how Jane was perceived,
Okay.
both during her lifetime and after her death.
What do they say?
Well, the Holbein portrait, for example, captures her in a moment of quiet dignity and piety.
Okay.
Her hands are clasped, her gaze is demure.
Hmm.
It's an image that reinforces this idea of her as a virtuous, even saintly figure.
But there's a hint of strength in her expression too, isn't there?
Oh, I think that's a very astute observation.
A sense of determination.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if there was more to Jane than just the meek and mild image
Right.
that was often projected onto her.
And that's something that historians are starting to explore more deeply. Okay.
We're moving beyond these simplistic portrayals of Jane as just a pawn or a victim and beginning to recognize her as a complex individual who made choices, exerted influence,
Yeah.
and ultimately left a significant mark on history.
So while Jane Seymour may not have enjoyed the longevity or the dramatic flair of some of Henry VIII's other wives, her story is no less compelling.
Absolutely not. In
Yeah.
fact, her very mystery, the gaps in our knowledge, make her all the more intriguing.
And it encourages us to delve deeper,
Yeah.
to examine the evidence, to
no.
piece together the story of this often overlooked queen
Right.
who played such a crucial role in shaping the Tudor dynasty.
Well said. And on that note,
Yeah.
let's take a short break to gather our thoughts
Okay.
and prepare to delve even further into the enigma that is Jane Seymour.
Okay, so we've been unpacking the life of Jane Seymour,
Yeah.
Henry VIII's third wife.
Right.
She's often overshadowed by the other queens.
But as we've seen, her story's full of intrigue and complexity.
Absolutely. One of the things that makes her so fascinating
Yeah.
is this contrast between her relatively short time on the throne
Right.
and the profound impact she had.
Yeah, I mean, she only reigned for 18 months.
I know.
But she gave Henry the male heir he so desperately craved,
Yes.
shaping the future of the Tudor dynasty.
Completely.
And her death,
Yes.
just days after Edward's birth,
Right.
adds another layer of tragedy to her story.
He does.
It almost elevates her to a martyr-like status.
The queen who sacrificed her life for her king and for the future of England.
It's a powerful narrative,
It is.
and one that was certainly exploited by Henry and those who came after him.
Definitely, her image was carefully crafted
Yeah.
to bolster the legitimacy of the Tudor dynasty.
But beyond the political machinations,
Yeah.
I think there's a genuine human story here
I agree.
that resonates even today.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder what Jane was really like.
It does.
What were her hopes and dreams?
Yeah.
What would her life have been like had she lived?
Those are questions we can only speculate about,
Yeah.
but the surviving evidence gives us some clues.
Okay.
We see glimpses of her personality in the historical accounts
Okay.
and her actions,
Yeah.
even in the details of her portraits.
Like her reported intervention during the Pilgrimage of Grace.
Exactly.
It suggests a woman of principle,
Right.
perhaps even a bit of a rebel.
Yeah. And then there's her relationship with Princess Mary,
Oh, yeah.
which seems to have been genuinely warm and affectionate.
That's interesting,
It is.
especially considering Mary's difficult relationship with both Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn.
Yeah.
It speaks to Jane's empathy,
Yeah.
a willingness to reach out
Yeah.
and offer comfort
Mm-hmm.
in a situation that must have been incredibly fraught with tension.
And let's not forget
Yeah.
the fact that she ran a strict and well-ordered household.
Right. That wasn't just about appearances.
No, it was about wielding power and influence within the court.
Like with the French hoods.
Exactly.
It might seem like a trivial detail,
Yeah.
but it actually reveals a lot about her political savvy
Mm-hmm.
and her understanding of how to use symbolism to assert her authority.
So, while we may never know the full extent of Jane Seymour's personality and influence,
Yeah.
what we do know paints a picture of a woman who was far more than just a pawn in Henry VIII's game.
She was a queen who navigated the treacherous waters of the Tudor court,
Mm-hmm.
fulfilled her duty to the crown,
Right.
and left an indelible mark on history,
Yes.
even if that mark is often overlooked or overshadowed.
It's a testament to how history is written,
Yeah.
how some narratives are amplified while
Yeah.
others fade into the background.
But as we've seen today,
Yeah.
even the seemingly quietest figures can play a pivotal role in shaping the course of events.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's those figures,
Yeah.
the ones who don't shout their stories from the rooftops, who offer the most intriguing glimpses into the complexities of the past.
So, if any of our listeners are now completely captivated by Jane Seymour,
Yeah.
where should they go to learn more?
Well, I would definitely recommend checking out the biographies by Elizabeth Norton and David Starkey.
Great choices.
They offer fascinating insights into her life and times.
Yes.
And, of course, there are tons of online resources and documentaries
So many.
that delve deeper into the Tudor era.
And don't forget the power of visiting those historical sites.
Oh, yeah.
Hampton Court Palace, where Edward was born.
Yeah.
The Tower of London.
Right.
Where Anne Boleyn met her tragic end.
Yes.
These places can truly bring history to life.
Well said.
And on that note,
Yeah.
we'll leave you to ponder the enigmatic life of Jane Seymour, Henry VIII's forgotten queen.
Her story, though, shrouded in mystery,
Right?
is one that continues to captivate and inspire us centuries later.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
There's always more to uncover.